I stopped listening to the news. I just don't give a shit anymore. Being in lockdown for a year with nothing to do but go online, 2020 just drained all my energy to give a shit. It's like they just stuck a straw in my head and for an entire year just sucked it all dry. That was mildly sexual, which is appropriate because caring for the news is like being in a relationship with an aggressively sexual partner. I'm talking absolute freaks that always just relentlessly want to fuck no matter the time, the place, doesn't matter how you're feeling, banging in the handicap stall at your great auntie's funeral type crazy. The more time you spend with them, the harder it is to get away. That's what the news is today. I think that's why when you're like 19, you're a crockpot full of hormones and libido, you're always more involved in politics. Going to protests, chanting whatever the hot topic is that season, just caring so much about one breaking news after another. And I get it, because when you're young, the possibilities are endless. Your sex drive is in full throttle, you have the energy to go on these sexual adventures. You try out new things with different people in strange places, in varying positions. Good times. Then you start slowing down in your 30s, both politically and sexually. You realize not much changes when it comes to politics, no matter how many chants, hashtags you blasted out into the world. The third decade of your life is also the time when the questionable life choices you made, mostly sexual, in your late teens and 20s start becoming more embarrassing. The mistakes go from being a funny story to a shameful one. Embarrassing life choices you made in your 20s that involve sex are like Nazi military medals. It was fashionable at one point in your life. Your friends all gave you high fives when you got them. But most importantly, you did what you did to earn them. And now it's your life goal to make sure no one finds out. And before you start judging me, let me tell you, if you haven't made a sexual misstep in your 20s, something that you don't want your kids to find out about you, basically if you don't have any Nazi military badges in your attic, you simply haven't lived your life yet. So if you're 29 and in a loving, stable relationship, end it and go get some Nazi stripes. I'm in my 30s now, so I have some authority on this matter. And in your 30s, you do slow down. You're a bit weathered. The mental mileage is reading around 100,000 miles, so you start fucking less. In the rare occasion that you do go out to a protest, you're just like in the back saying, yeah, all those things. Like when you're young, going to a protest was your whole day, but in your 30s, it's something you do before you go wild at Whole Foods. That's where the real party is. And by the time you're in your 60s, you check in on the news and sex, maybe on a quarterly basis. And it's always limited to one news station and one sex position. That's the rule. Gotta stick to what you know. 2020 was such a wild year that my ability to care about the news is just bone dry. And it's not even really about caring what's happening around the world. Of course I do. But it's the way the media tries to get people to care. Through outrage. Like CNN, MSNBC, all those guys, they secretly loved Trump because he was an endless fountain of rage content for them. Every day, all they had to do was, Trump said this on Twitter, can you believe this guy? 4 years into his presidency, I'm just like, yeah, I can. The man was a reality TV star. What did you expect? And everyone, all these suburban soccer moms, starved for drama and conflict in their lives. Every single time they see one of those segments, they're just like, how could he say that? So unpresidential. What about the kids? And before you start labeling me a conservative, let me just say, all those mental patients that stormed the Capitol are doing the same exact thing with Fox News now that Joe Biden's in office. So fuck you guys too. Love him or hate him, the media loved the attention they got in 2020 because of that guy. And here's how I know it's true. Their ratings plummeted in 2021. And now they're constantly looking for another Trump. Because they need to keep the upper middle class suburban eyeballs on their programs, so they keep trying to crank out the next villain, the next thing you need to rage about, because they gotta keep the gravy train running, and their fuel is your hatred, your frustrations, and your stress. Whenever I'm trying to make sense of the world, I try to simplify it. I like to compare the world to a middle school classroom. The media is like an annoying 6th grader who's thrived off of gossiping about one kid in class, and when that kid moves to a different town, she tries to talk about some other bullshit because now she's addicted to the attention. Like, oh my god, can you believe how creepy Matt Gates is? No, Rachel, shut the fuck up. I don't care. You haven't been interesting since Donnie left. Go away. Why don't you ever talk about how the principal is giving out the school's lunch contracts to his buddies, and now we have to eat expired prison gruel for lunch every day? Why don't you talk about something that matters? So yeah, that's why I stopped listening to the news. And I'm going to stay unplugged until aliens make contact.